Listen,
It's
Mike,
always awkward, Mitch.
This
It's
is not.
always, no matter what we do. Hey, welcome back to Mitch and Mike's voiceover journey. Hey, guess what? I'm back. I've been out of pocket for what feels like a long freaking time. But I'm back in the booth. Much thanks to Mike Regan, who was subbing for me. Today we have Mr. Matt Fogarty with us. How you doing, Matt?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Is that how you say it? Fogarty.
Fogarty. Yeah, just like John Fogarty of
Just
CCR.
like John Fogarty.
One letter spelling difference. And I got a funny story about that, but we'll
It's
ease into
Fogarty.
that.
We'll
Please
Tell
do
us
that.
the funny story, Matt Fogarty.
Wait, we're going to start with a funny story? I
We're
love
kicking
this.
off with funny stories? Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I was waiting in a very long line at an airport, gate, waiting to board a flight. And, you got to show your ID and all that kind of stuff. And the person at the gate was, not like an elderly person or anything by any means, but, probably in their, I would say early 60s. And she looks at my ID and says, do you know who Paul Fogarty is? And I was like, I get do you know John, are you related to John Fogarty all the time, right? But I'd never, ever had Paul Fogarty. So I'm like, Paul Fogarty? No, I don't think so. Who's Paul Fogarty? And she's like, well, you're probably a little bit too young to remember the band. I'm like, are you talking about CCR? She's like, yeah, you do know them. I'm like, yeah, it's John Fogarty. Oh, and then she was so embarrassed.
She's
It was really
such
funny.
a fan. She's such a
Yeah,
big
totally.
fan
Yeah,
of
they had
that
3
Paul John
songs.
Fogarty. Yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
I always get the, they see my name, Mike Pelletier. Oh, do you know Alfred Pelletier from Pennsylvania? No, there are more than one Pelletier family. We're not all, one straight line family tree. So
I'm glad I can be the only one to say, if there is a Lashinsky with my name spelling, I am related to that
you're
person.
probably right.
It has never been the case that I have not been related to that person on accident. What a fun way to start. Wow.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here, guys. Sorry.
Fresh out of stories after the John Fogarty story.
All right. Well, that was great. We're just gonna. Mitch and I are gonna talk. John. I almost said, John Fogarty's gonna stare at us, or Paul, or Ringo. Ringo Fogarty. So Matt, we were talking beforehand, and I know you met. You kind of peripherally known Mitch, and then you met him at VOA. Here earlier this year, but this is our first time getting to know each other. It's our first time talking, and I want to know a little bit more about you, man. What got you into the industry? What got you into voiceover?
Well, I started off in radio. I was a radio creative director for about 14 years, and during that time, I sort of, my first time voicing anything was just for some local businesses, commercials through the radio station. So I was voicing some of that kind of stuff, and there was a guy that was the morning show host at the Hot AC station where I was at, a guy by the name of Dave Pettit, who is a very talented voice actor in his own right, does a ton of work, narration and animation and commercials and all kinds of stuff. And he actually lives in Nanaimo, where I am right now. So it's kind of kind of cool. But yeah, he one day came down from his morning show booth upstairs. They put the creative writers down in the basement, and he
Where they
came
should
down
be.
and he's like, yeah, right. It's like let's keep the creative people away from the rest.
Yeah,
of the
let's
people.
keep the creative people in a dark, dank room. That makes sense.
They'd throw slices of pizza down to us on Fridays, just keep us having but anyway. Yeah, so Dave came down and he was like, "Hey guys, who voiced that City Tile spot that I just had in my last stop set?" And I kind of sheepishly put up my hand, was like, "Whoa, did I do something wrong? What's about to happen?" He's like, "That was a really good read, man. You should, think about doing some voiceover." And to that point, I had really no idea what voiceover was. I didn't realize that it existed as an industry outside the walls of the radio station. So like it took me a few months from that point to kind of like test the waters a little bit, do a little bit of research, that kind of stuff. But, eventually got a couple of clients here and there and just slowly built, a roster of clients over that 14-year period as a creative director, doing both, juggling both. It was a balancing act at times for sure. But around 2020, we were all working from home. And
it's a
during
crossroads
that time,
for a lot of people.
Yeah, and from that experience of like being home during my workday, I was able to like, it was easier for me to balance both because I could just run to my studio where I am right now. Like I had my laptop set up at my kitchen table to do the radio stuff, and I was like going back and forth. But that's when I sort of really got a taste of like, I could probably be doing voiceover full time. I should probably be doing voiceover full time. So it was right near the end of 2020 when I decided that I was going to leave radio and pursue voiceover on a full-time basis. And so yeah, I made a difficult call to my GM, who I had a great relationship with and who was a really awesome boss. I didn't really want to leave. I still loved radio. I still love radio. But it was just at the point where I couldn't really do both to the level that I wanted to be able to do it. Something was going to suffer, either my voiceover business or my performance at work in my role as creative director. So I didn't want that to happen. I knew I had to make a choice and go all in on one or the other. And I bet on myself and went all in on voiceover. And that was at the end of 2020. So it's been 5 years or so now.
And you haven't looked back.
Have not looked back. I mean,
awesome.
I've looked back and like, oh man, those company golf tournaments.
The perks are gone. I own my own business. Nobody's paying for my health insurance.
I have not hosted one golf tournament. Matt Fogarty Voiceovers Inc.
I mean, that seems like a goal. That seems like the future. Hey, you know what? I haven't played golf in probably 20 years. But if you invited me to the first annual Matt Fogarty voiceover golf tournament, I'd go hack.
That's not a bad idea. That's
as long as if you do it, you heard it here. I gave you the suggestion, so I get some royalties.
Royalties? Wait, you just get to go. Okay, there's only so many people.
I'll accept that. Yeah, sure.
Flag bag.
So. You had not acted previous to doing commercials for a radio station, or you had some acting background?
I mean, a little bit of acting background. When I was in high school, I took all the drama classes that I could, but there wasn't a ton. So like I had a little bit of experience with improv. I had played a few roles, like stage roles that were part of like a high school productions, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But nothing really beyond that. I should also include that the reason why I kind of got into radio was, and this sort of goes together nicely anyway. I was in school and I was taking English and film studies. So film studies kind of ties into it, although it wasn't like acting per se. It was more like interpreting film as texts almost, and like that kind of stuff. But that being said, I got to watch some cool old classic cinema that I probably would never have been exposed to otherwise. Like black and white stuff, The Third Man. I took a class called The Films of Marlon Brando, which was eye-opening. I did
a contender.
Right? And
that's my really bad Brando impersonation.
And like all these great films. So I had like a very deep-seated appreciation for acting as a craft and like film as a medium. I always loved watching movies. Like with my dad, we would go to the movie theater all the time, stuff like that, like action movies, James Bond, whatever I could get my hands on. But while I was at university taking those classes, my roommate and I were both like really big punk rock fans. Like we loved the music, the heavy stuff. And so we're like, we should try and play this on the radio. Like the music that we listen to, there's no business of being played on commercial radio, but at a campus station, they'll pretty much let anybody have a show. If it's just about, are you going to show up for your time slot? Are you going to be relatively sober? All right, you've got a show. So
that's tough.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, we got a show, and we hosted like this hour-long kind of like punk and metal show. It was super fun, and played all this crazy stuff. And like that's kind of like was my first introduction to radio. And we didn't do any our show had no imaging or anything. There was like it was on mini disc, kind of going back a few years, but that you'd play the intro to the station, like the station ID on mini disc, and it'd be like CJMQ 88.9 FM, and then there would be like a commercial for Domino's Pizza, which was hilarious. And then we would be like, hey guys, you want to listen to some Pennywise or whatever?
It sounds like our podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What the heck's going on here?
But it was so fun. And so we did that for a couple of years when we were at school, and then after that, I was trying to figure out a way to, what I was going to do with an English degree and a film studies degree. I was like, I had a really good time in university, but what's the job? So my girlfriend at the time was in Calgary, Alberta, going to the Alberta College of Art and Design, taking a fine arts degree. I was trying to get to Calgary so that we could be together. We had been doing long distance while I was away at school. It was like I was finished with long distance. I was like, I got to get to Calgary. So I was looking at programs, desperately trying to find a way to justify a move to Calgary, and I found the radio. It was called RTBN, Radio Television Broadcast News Program at SAIT in Calgary, Alberta, and I did a little bit of research, and it was like a really well-respected program for radio broadcasting and journalism and television. And so I said, hey, hosting a radio show with my buddy was fun. Maybe this will also be fun, and got into the program. And then that's kind of like how I got into radio. So there, now you're up to speed to 2007. I got my job in Nanaimo as a creative writer in 2000. I want to say 2007. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
And then yeah.
Well, you started out that story by saying you didn't have a lot of experience, and I'll be honest with you. I mean that story, you have a lot more experience than you think you do. Compared to others that do voiceover, in that you have creative. Yeah, Mitch. You had that creative drive where you love cinema and you love going to the cinema and you respected the art and you took the theater and all of that kind of stuff, and then you got into radio. I mean that's really a lot. I know a lot of people that were just like, yeah, somebody told me I had a good voice, and so I thought, well, let me try this out. And,
hi there. Yeah.
Well, I will say that radio did provide a great foundation for comfortable with editing audio, hearing things in a critical way with audio, writing. I was, as a creative director, my main job was writing the copy. So, we wrote all the commercial scripts, all the promos, all the imaging for 6 radio stations, all different formats. So I did get a very sound understanding of sound and
I see what you did
things, there. Right? That was accidental, but I'm going with it.
Own it.
So it did give a great foundation. I will say that I coached for many, many years. I still coach with voiceover coaches today, but my first coach was Nancy Wolfson, and we worked together for several years, and she was fantastic. But there was a period of time where she was like, I need to beat the radio out of you, there is a cadence, there is an announcery sound that
I was going to ask.
Sometimes, people who have come from radio have, because, they always had to read copy in usually 40 seconds of copy in 30 seconds, and it just was easy to kind of go into autopilot and go like bing, done, and throw a music bed under it and then on to the next one, right? Like there was for me, my experience with radio is it was such a high volume of production that we did the best job that we could on every spot, but sometimes like speed and being able to get something on air quickly trumped like being able to really make a fantastic spot, right? So there was a bit of a balance there, but I mean it took a little while, but Nancy was able to kind of coax that out of me, I think.
What do you think it took? Like beating it out, like I had to just keep being told to, I guess, be in the moments, get out of my head. I guess is my biggest thing.
Yeah, we all have our hang-ups.
Yeah, what do you think it was that pushed you to the next level?
I think it was like probably a combination of factors, but if I could just sort of like synthesize that all down to one sort of bite-sized nugget here for our purposes, it's that I think for a lot of years when I was first starting doing any kind of voicing, I was and I'm sure we're all guilty of this to some degree, but I think that I was almost preoccupied with how I sounded versus did I understand what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
The sound of your voice, you get specs that say, high energy, blah, 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 whatever. And it's really easy to just kind of like go into those spots and just kind of like slap high energy on it all, right? And do a read where you blast it out of the park. And sometimes people want that, but much more of the time, that doesn't necessarily mean just like come at it at 110%, right? You still need to understand the story. You need to understand what you're saying. You need to understand who you're saying it to. So I think that after working with all different coaches, I sort of learned to sit back, take a minute, read what's on the page, understand what's on the page, try to think like, how can I have an authentic sort of interaction with this copy? How can I sort of make it my own, but, at the same time, like still deliver on the specs? So I think really just slowing down, reading everything that's on the page and trying to get to a point where you can have, like an authentic sort of, interaction with it, where you're not just like, okay, looking, scanning quickly, specs, upbeat, da-da-da-da-da, and then going into it and then like hoping that your super friendly upbeat read is going to be enough to put your audition ahead of, however many others that, it's not going to work. It's a competitive business. You have to take the time to really understand what you're saying and really make intentional choices with the copy. And I think that's kind of like the biggest thing. Whereas early on, I was guilty of like just trying to get it done. And that's probably because of my radio background where we always had to get things done so fast.
Right.
But yeah, taking your time, understanding what you're saying and making good choices as an actor.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I get in the booth and I think I know what's being said. I think I know how I need to say it, but I'm like, okay, what are the specs and how do they want me to sound? And then I read it and I listen back to it and I'm like, I probably sound like 78% of the auditions they're getting, so I don't stand out. So that's when you kind of I look at it again. I'm all right. How can I put a little more me into it? How can I do something slightly different? That still gives them kind of what they want to hear, but also makes them go, oh, what did he just do there? So that's what I'm searching for. I'm not always successful, but I think that's it's one of the hardest things to do, at least for me, is to get that distinctive sound where I feel like, all right, I've recorded something that isn't generic.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you do all those extra steps, And, I find myself struggling with, did I go too far? Like, is this too, is this silly?
Yes.
Like, is this,
Where's the
and
line?
you listen back and you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, and so it's tough because you have to learn, it is kind of a balance. Like, you don't want to go totally crazy, but, the other thing I've come to really learn is a good tool is there are like degrees of subtlety that that casting directors are really listening for, and their minds and their ears are so in tune to that. Like, you don't always have to give, like, if you're given 2 takes on audition on an professional speaker here, if you're giving 2 takes on any audition and it's asking for some range, like, that doesn't mean you need to come in one way up here and one way down here. Like, you can give 2 ones that are different enough with some subtle degrees of nuance and some subtle choices, and they pick up on that. So, like, the average listener or the average consumer might not recognize those subtleties as much, but casting does. So, you don't always have to try and be like, well, I'm going to give one this way and then I'm going to give one in a British accent. Like, no, obviously not. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go too crazy on the difference as long as it's different enough. They pick up on that stuff, I think.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And we hear both sides of that. Some of my agents are like, your takes need to be way more different, even if I think I'm nuanced. And some are like, all right, maybe you don't need to yell or something like that. Stop screaming or whatever it is.
I mean,
different people.
There's obviously, like, that's kind of like what I use for a general thing, but each audition is going to be a little bit different. Each client is a little bit different. Each casting director is going to have some different thoughts on that too. So I think if your agent is saying that they want more difference, I would say give them that. But if you're in a place where you're pretty confident and like you're booking fairly regularly and stuff like that, then, like, I would say keep going with what works. But it's just something to be mindful of, is like where we might not think that there's enough range. Like, I've worked with lots of coaches that are like, there's degrees of subtlety, and it doesn't have to be 100 times up the, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, you don't have to be a 10 and a 1, you can be a 7 and a 5, and that's good. Because we still want to honor the specs, and we want to still live in that world where we could hear that our takes could be in the finished spot. That's another thing too, like really trying to visualize what's happening on screen, if it's a TV spot or like a video spot. That's really helped me a lot too, is just really trying to picture what it is. It's great when you get a scratch track, but you don't always get a scratch track. So
yeah, or you like go find one. Someone suggested that to me. I was thinking to myself, I was like, is this cheating? I don't know why I think anything's cheating, by the way. It's the dumbest thing I've ever told myself. Like, you're doing something different, so it must be cheating. But yeah, if you go find a scratch track, maybe I'm a little afraid I can hear it through my headphones into the mic, but it does help get you in that mood. If you find just like, oh, this is sort of a drama spot, so I need some dramatic music or whatever.
Absolutely.
Get yourself in the mood.
Yeah.
I frequently find a music bed and like read to it just in my headphones super low. It doesn't usually bleed through, or if it does, it's at such a minuscule amount, it's not a problem, or I just run some processing to take that out. But it really does help. And talk about getting 2 distinct takes or 2 different takes. I mean, find that dramatic tension bed, and then find one that's like more like dun dun dun, like a little bit more, like it changes your read in such a powerful way, I find. But then you got to spend time finding the right music beds, because obviously you can't do
That's true. Some of us only have a couple out. Yeah,
that's where it's always good if I had one recently that, I read the copy and they provided a track. Here's what we wanted to. Okay, and so I read the copy and I'm like, okay, I think I got it. And then I clicked on the link and I'm like, holy crap, they want so much more. It was very like energetic, and I did not get that from the copy. And I'm like, wow, okay, I guess I need to do this a little bit differently than I thought.
Yeah, it's so helpful. I mean, I've usually not, if it's an audition from an agent, I don't go like, can you ask them for the music bed? But, certainly like if I have like a direct inquiry and they're like, we'd love to hear you read on this. I'm like, do you have the music picked out? I mean, a lot of times they do. So, I mean, I've had that happen where they send me the actual track that they're going to use. And then, you're giving yourself an advantage right off the bat just by asking one simple question. And I think that producers recognize that as, somebody wanting to be a good creative partner, somebody that's going to like ask those questions to try and elevate the product that we're providing, so they know
Right.
that that's going to get them a better read than, I mean, it's in their own best interest to provide that. Now, if they say, no, we're not sure what it's going to be yet, but we want to do something like kind of like low and slow and dramatic. Okay, great. Like go with that. And then try and find your own music bed. There's all kinds of free music beds on YouTube, or there's all kinds of ones you can, like I subscribe to a site that, has a great selection of music beds, and I go to that one when I need one.
Yeah, that's smart. And that puts you in the realm of, you are in the realm now because you were in radio and you've collaborated on all these things before. You understand the different angles everyone's looking at it from. So maybe you were behind, quote unquote, sounding like a radio guy, but you're so far ahead in understanding the way an ad needs to sound and what this person might be thinking, or even having the guts to ask for a music bed is something I've never even thought of. How smart. Where do you think
it can be a big help?
Yeah. How do you think, I mean, I've heard this confidence in a lot of voice actors. This is the entrepreneurial confidence. But what do you think pushes you in this direction all this time to have the confidence to, while you're like, I'm creating my own music station and now I'm going to switch over. I know I need to be a voice actor. Like, where do you find this entrepreneurial drive?
My kids got to eat, man.
It's food. It's food-based.
It's just basic necessities.
But I mean, I think it comes from a desire to just want to. I want to make good stuff. Like when I see a spot, like I watch the commercials. I don't fast forward the commercials if I've, DVR'd a show. I watch them because I enjoy them. I enjoy the art form that is a really well-crafted commercial. Just the other day, we were watching something, and a commercial came up, and it was for the BC Children's Hospital. And I swear to God, I was in tears watching this commercial. It was so powerful. It was, and it was a voice-driven spot. Now, I'm a father. I have 2 young girls. And the spot it's a children's hospital, so it was voiced by a really young sounding, like super cute voice. And like it they really nailed me right in the feels with the first line of the spot, which was, how did it go? It was like, I'm paraphrasing. It was like, Dad, like you protect me when I'm sick or something like that. And I was just right from there. They knew their audience, right? They're talking to dads.
Yeah.
I was just floored, and this spot, like, it was so good. It was so well done that it elicited that emotional response from me, and that happens all the time in commercials. Great commercials make you feel something because people, when they feel something, it's easy for them to justify a purchase or justify taking an action that the commercial wants them to do, right? If you like felt so strongly about a product or a service that you saw, then it's easy for you to be like, oh yeah, I need that. I need that, right?
Absolutely.
So, in this case, it was for a hospital, so it's a little bit different, but the logic there is the same.
I know teenage Mike felt something when he watched those Christy Brinkley, or I messed it up. Whatever model that did the Pepsi ads. Oh gosh, now I can't even think of her. She's got the mole. Oh, I just screwed that up. Yeah, that was supposed to be. Yeah, it was supposed to be
actually
good.
supposed to be
It's supposed to be good, but then what is her name?
He's talking about sexuality, the
I'm
sexuality
talking
of a
about
young
teenage
man.
boy go to. Yeah.
Was it not Cindy Crawford?
Yes, Cindy Crawford. That's what I was trying to think of. Yes,
I was like,
the Cindy Crawford Pepsi.
think
Did you
I-
feel
yeah.
something,
Yeah,
Mike?
yeah.
Were you crying?
You felt something?
You know what the fun thing about this, Matt, is we're not editing this out. This is going to be, this is our listeners are going to go, oh, there goes Mike again. He screwed that up. Oh,
His memory sucks
it's awkward. Oh, but hey, that's us.
So for me, sitting down and enjoying the craft of a commercial, any sort of ad, started when I started voiceover, and immediately someone tells you, listen. Start listening now. If you're not going to act first, start listening now. That's just been something you've been doing innately your whole life? Or is it more now that you've been a part of the machine, so to speak?
Yeah, it's that's a great question. I don't know. I don't remember it happening before I worked in advertising, but certainly when I was working in radio, I mean, I paid uber close attention to like when I was listening to radio, to the commercials, because that was my part of my job. But I mean, I've always appreciated like a good story and like good production value and all that kind of stuff. And commercials these days, like the really good ones, they're just short films. They really are. They are just like, they're beautiful, like produced. Yeah. The talent is amazing. The cinematics are incredible. So, I mean, I guess probably looking at it from that perspective, because I loved film, I haven't really separated the two. Sure, one is trying to sell me something, but if it's being done in such an eloquent, beautiful way, like I'm cool with it. Like
yeah. And you can remember ones from your childhood.
Yeah. Well, that ad stand out in all the wrong ways. Like
you gotta love the local ads. The local injury lawyer. Just
totally.
I'll fight for you. They always want to do their own ads.
I wish I could play the local guy. He's gonna get a plug here, but it's something dogs, something. Like Law Dogs, and there's this guy screaming at you he's like, dogs gotta eat. It's just the worst.
He's got that same entrepreneurial spirit like we do.
He does, yeah, and he's on the billboards. Yeah, he does gotta eat.
Oh, yeah, those injury lawyers, they eat, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to try to play it.
So Matt, I mean, I from this conversation, I take it, I mean, commercials are your bread and butter, right?
Yeah. Commercials, and I do a lot of radio imaging, and that's from my radio days.
Right.
So yeah, but imaging and commercial are my two like top genres. But I do other stuff too. I do corporate, and I do some e-learning. I do some audiobooks. If you need a voice, I'll do it.
So. Here's what's interesting about I guess I don't hear this a lot from just voice actors, so maybe there's some underlying thing and you could just go, nope, there's not. But I feel like I've had more than one person go, talk to Matt Fogarty, or you're on Mark Scott's podcast and talking about radio imaging, which was like I was like, I feel like you're giving away the whole the whole thing. I learned a lot from that podcast. Thank you for that. But is there some underlying, like, are you coaching people? Are you creating something? Is there some extra thing that isn't just I'm a voice actor? Because if you're that good of a voice actor, I'm almost mad now.
I have started doing a little teeny bit of coaching in imaging specifically. It's not really something I ever set out to do, but there has been people asking me if I do that, so I have made a little bit of time in my schedule to take on a couple people to help with imaging stuff, but that was never really the goal. But it's funny, like I got to thank Mark Scott, because after that podcast is when people started being like, hey, do you coach in that? I'm like, not really. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it. But, So I guess short answer is yes, I am doing a little bit of coaching in radio imaging, but I mean I'm still, like I said, I have 2 young kids. I got a wife. I'm busy in my own voice acting career, so
Yeah.
I don't have like a ton of availability to do that. But
I hear you.
I am, like finding some time to do that, and I've got a couple people that I'm working with. So
Okay, 19 listeners. Just wait it out. He'll need to do coaching only eventually, but wait it out.
So the radio imaging thing, I mean, it's not something that I have, explored greatly. What goes into that that's different than, say, commercials or e-learning or any other genre of voiceover? We've stumped him.
No, there's similarities. I mean, but
well, sure.
Imaging is, you're personifying the brand, and you're sort of taking on the personality of the station. So it's really format dependent. If you're listening to like a country radio station, your delivery on that station is going to be different than a rock station, is going to be different than an easy listening station. So there's lots of considerations to take into that are going to affect your read based on format, based on station, based on market, based on the input of the program director and the imaging director or the production director. They're going to have some input. What I like about imaging that stands out sort of beyond the other genres is there aren't any guardrails really. And what I mean by that is you're going to get a page of copy from your program director or from your creative services director, and it's going to have the things that they need you to say to satisfy the sponsor or, to make sure it plugs like whatever promo they're doing or, all of like that. But the magic of imaging is that within those lines of copy, there is so much room to throw in a little bit of your own personality and your own flavor and ad libs. Like I think imaging, commercial I think is catching up in this regard, but imaging to me is the genre that gives you the most freedom to ad lib and to like throw some improv in, and like it doesn't have to be super well thought out, even in like little funny quips, right? That you can just put in. What I like to try to think of imaging is that I'm providing work parts for a producer who's a far better audio genius than I am. And if I give them all the pieces they need, and then I also give them a couple of pieces that are funny little additions, they are going to be able to take all of those work parts and put them together into something that sounds awesome.
Okay.
And I think the best imaging is stuff that has that. And there's people that are really good at that. And, most of them come from a radio background or production background. And those who do it like that do it really well. And I think it's so much fun to do. So that's kind of the biggest difference. But just to add to this on commercial, I think that there's a ton of opportunity in commercial voiceover now, more than there was years ago, that people and buyers want to hear your personality. You start seeing that in specs more for commercial, like, improv, improv people welcome.
Yeah.
Send us your top comedic people or stuff like that. So whenever you see that in specs, like that is licensed to let her rip, bud.
And I think everything's cyclical, right? So I mean, everything was the conversational read, the real and there that still exists, but it feels like more and more you're seeing some of that. Hey, we want personality. Starting to come back a little bit, but. I was thinking earlier when you were talking about the radio imaging, I want to see an example. I want to give you an exercise, man. All right, we're going to play a little game.
Can we do this?
All right.
I'm going to
give you a station, okay? And I want you to give me some of your best imaging for that station, all right? So
I'll try.
the station is let's see, K101 St. Louis, the Weird Al station. Go.
The Weird Al station?
Yeah.
Okay.
We might cut out his writing, but he's writing right now. He's actually writing.
He's
is
actually
amazing.
coming up with it. Oh my gosh, he's coming up with it.
You have to do your homework. You always have to do your homework. If it's okay, let's break it down here. K101 St. Louis, it's the Weird Al station. So is this all Weird Al music all the time?
All Weird Al all the time.
Okay.
No, not extra parodies on the edges.
I mean, maybe a little bit of if you come from the era, the Dr. Demento stuff, but
Some Richard Cheese.
Well, the Food album was, I think, probably his finest work.
It's great.
Also, what was Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark? What was that one called? Lollapalooza? Or no, not Lollapalooza. It was something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It had the Jurassic Park dinosaur on the front of the cover. That was a good album too. I was into Weird Al. If it's all Weird Al, here's what I'm going to do. I'll tell you how to approach this. I mean, I don't think I can write copy and spit it out to you right now. But if it's a Weird Al station, I mean, you're going to lean into the weirdness and the hilarity of that, right? You need to understand the audience that's listening to that station, and you need to understand, like, who is Weird Al. So, like, if I didn't know who Weird Al was, the first thing I would do is go out and read everything I could about Weird Al, and I would have to listen to his songs. I would need to, okay, it's a parody artist. Oh, okay, he's actually really funny. Oh, he's actually a great musician. All these things. So you would need to go do all of that research first, and then you'd be able to do something like, K101 St. Louis, like all weird all the time, or like something like that, right? You'd need to understand, and you'd want to make it even. You'd need to go crazier than that. It's Weird Al, right? Like that would be a super fun station to image, but.
So you're saying if I was to do imaging for a smooth jazz station, I'd have to go out and listen to smooth jazz?
I mean, I would suggest that. Yeah, I would definitely would suggest it. You don't have to, but
just stand in an elevator for a while.
Yeah,
just run up and down. Be like, oh, that's the elevator guy.
Smooth operator. Sorry.
You need to understand what it is. It's the same with commercial, right? Like you're going to research the product a little bit. You're going to research the brand, because a radio station has a brand tone and all that. I mean, the first thing I do when I get a radio imaging audition is just like go stream the station and listen to it for over an hour, like to get a flavor of the on-air talent and what does the current imaging sound like. Like, is the current imaging, like, what are they trying to change? Do you know, like, you don't want to listen to the station and then hear what they're doing and then, like, just give them that. Like, why they want to change something if they're auditioning people, right? So, like, do they want to sound younger? Do they want to sound cooler? Do they want to sound sexier? Do they want to sound, you need to kind of, like.
None of that.
Young, cool, and sexy.
Beardier, like I don't know.
Beardier. I can
hear the wisps. Can I hear the wisps?
Totally. So we need more whiskers in our
my beard.
Call Mike. He's our guy.
Can we hear the baleen, please?
So then I guess the last question I have for you is, all right, radio imaging sounds really cool. How does one get into that if not through just an agent saying, "Hey, I have this radio imaging job I'd like you to audition for"?
The internet is a vast and wonderful place. It's for the most part.
How do I?
So I mean, all of the information that you need to contact a radio station is on the radio station website. Within reason. Like sometimes they don't give you the actual name of the person, but you can do a little bit of homework and find these people most of the time. So I mean, I wouldn't suggest you go out and do that unless you're sort of ready to be competitive in that genre and have a good
not
radio.
Now, Mike. Maybe 2 years from now, Mike, who's done some coaching and gets a radio imaging demo. But
yeah, for sure. Then I mean, the way that it started for me, I did have some pre-existing connections because I worked in radio, but that was within one company, and there's tons of radio stations. So I did it old school. I went state by state, province by province, and I made spreadsheets, man. It was painstaking. I went to Wikipedia and I wrote in list of radio stations in California, lists of radio stations in Washington, lists of radio stations in Oregon, and I just scanned all this. I picked out the stations that I thought would be two factors, stations that were commercial radio stations that would have a budget for imaging talent.
Yeah, that's important.
Makes sense.
Got to make that cash.
Yeah, and then formats that I could perform, like CHR, rock, country, AC were my sort of go-tos. So I would find all the AC stations. That's adult contemporary. So that's like Friendly, your best of the 80s, 90s, and now. Your number one station, at work station, like Friendly stuff. I would find like the rock stations that I liked, and I was raised on alternative rock and punk rock, and I love that heavy rock stuff. So that was like a natural fit for me in a lot of ways because I already knew the music and I already kind of knew the bands, and it was a familiar area for me. So like I would make a list of all the rock stations state by state, like I said, and just like try and find the program director's name and email. And then, I had the producer at our radio station make a couple demos for me, and I would just send them out. And, you send a lot of emails and you get a whole lot of nothing back, but every once in a while you're like, hey, that was a great demo. We're not looking right now, but I'm going to keep your stuff on file. And when people say that, I think that we sort of are predisposed to think like, never going to hear from this guy again. But that's not always true. I definitely have had people come back years later. I'm not exaggerating.
I've heard stories like that from a lot of people.
And be like, hey, are you still doing imaging voiceover? Are you still interested in demoing for me? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, please. Yeah.
And
let me rebuy all that stuff.
Yeah. So,
blow the dust off that road.
It takes a long time. It takes a long time. But, if you plant all those seeds, eventually something's going to grow.
Well, that's awesome.
That's absolutely beautiful, and it's in line. Matt, I hate to say, but the strength of the entrepreneur runs deep in you. No, I don't hate
Why
to
do you
say
hate
that.
to
It's
say
true.
that?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. What I hate to say is that
You hate to say it because it runs deeper in him than it does us.
That's
Is that
true.
what you're
That
trying
sucks.
to get? Yeah.
That sucks a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a through line that I bring up a lot, and that's it. You are nonstop. You don't just want to feed your family. You want to create beautiful stuff. This is normally Mike's question, and this will be my last question. It's a two-part, or however you want to answer it.
Okay.
Is there something coming up that you are hoping to accomplish, or is there a dream accomplishment or creation of your own that you wish to accomplish?
Okay.
In VO.
Yeah, in VO. I was going to say, I want to dance. No.
I want to dance, man.
Okay, so I'm working right now. I'm working on a new sports promo demo. I was very fortunate to book a cool promo for MLB Network fairly recently. And that's kind of ignited a bit of a spark in wanting to pursue more sports work. So I'm doing a new sports demo. I would love to start doing more work for like the teams that I like to watch. Being from Canada, I'm a Toronto Blue Jays fan for baseball. A couple years ago, I did a couple campaigns for the Kansas City Royals, which I loved doing, but like as a Blue Jays fan at heart, I was like,
Yeah, I haven't gotten any, but I've done some of those auditions for other teams where I'm like, no, it's not my team.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurts so hard. It's so bad to do this.
Totally. But it's fun. It's in the right ballpark.
See what you did there. Oh, Matt's
we are
full
gonna
of
edit
the
it a bit,
puns.
though, right?
No, none whatsoever.
We got you in the puns, bud.
So, yeah, sports. I'd love to do more sports, specifically baseball. I played baseball as a kid. I love baseball. Hockey too. It'd be great to do some stuff for some hockey teams as well. I'm also a hockey fan. So, but yeah, anything in that realm. That's kind of like my current push. But in the commercial front, I mean, there's lots of brands that I have yet to work with that I would love to work with. So there's a few brands on that bucket list as well that I'm slowly ticking off.
That's so cool.
Well, I think with your meticulous drive to succeed, you know, I see you accomplishing those goals, man.
And you're cool, which is also
cool.
bullshit. Yeah,
That helps. That helps because no one likes to hire an ass.
It's true.
happens,
It's
but-
true. You never know. You don't ever want to burn a bridge, right? Or try not
Yeah,
to.
that's that was one of the best pieces of advice. Not that I am one, but I mean from one of my coaches, you know, basically said, you know, the one thing to remember is when you get a job and you go into that directed recording session, don't be an ass.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, got it.
give that
You're
a
there.
shot.
You're like going back to the entrepreneurial thing. Like, voiceover is a very fine line. Like, you have to be an artist, an actor, a creative type. You have to be a smart business person and have like an acumen of business etiquette and like all that kind of stuff. You have to be a salesperson to some degree when you're pitching yourself to agencies or to clients or to whoever. So there's a lot of hats that you got to wear in this business, and you know it's a lot of work, but you have to treat it like a business. And that's one thing that if I could go back, I did it as a side hustle and I treated it like a side hustle. Because when you're in radio, at least my experience, you know, an extra $100 so that you can buy like, you can maybe go to the pub and have a beer and a plate of chicken wings. That's awesome, because you know we don't get into radio for the glamour in most cases, but you know that was really cool for the first couple of years. But as soon as you start to treat it as a business and you understand like you get out of it what you put in, that's when you know really things start to click then.
Well, that's good advice.
And it's tough.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a lot
definitely
for
tough.
us
Yeah,
out there,
that entrepreneurial hat that business person hat. I think that's where, you know, Mitch and I love. That's one of the reasons we love doing the podcast is we talk to people like you, and you motivate us to do better in that realm. I mean, we talk to a lot of talented people, and we feel like we're kind of talented too. But you know, when it comes to that, when it comes to actually, you know, pushing and marketing and doing all the stuff, that's, you know, we need that push. We need that motivation, as do, I'm sure, our listeners. But we're coming to the end of the time here, Matt. And again, it's been fantastic to get to know you. And hopefully we cross paths. Yes,
with you.
I hope we cross paths sometime.
See, I can tell you guys do character work, which is something that
totally.
I don't really do. Like,
Yeah, that's our passion. I would love to. Yeah, my goal is to be in some kind of cartoon, but
yeah,
but I want to do all the
chipping
other
away.
things too, because you know, making money is kind of nice.
eating.
And it's
Good,
all
good.
fun.
Yeah, and it's all fun. Yeah. And
Right.
and part of the beauty is it's such a diverse industry. I mean, you can really like do some fun stuff, man. Like
Yeah,
from e-learning, I mean, that's like the sort of more grinding it out kind of stuff, but like in a day you could do like a safety training video, you could do a cartoon character, you could do a brand spot for Nike, and you know, you could do a Weird Al radio station all in the same day. No day
making
is
it.
the same. Yeah.
I'm pulling you in for that, Matt. We're
as
making.
long
then-
as it stays fun.
Our sponsor will be the Matt Fogarty voiceovers golf tournament. I'll be your
There you
first
go.
advertiser.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much again for joining us, man. Really appreciate you being on, and good luck with all your endeavors. And hopefully, I'll be, tuned into some, my team's the Dodgers, so I'll tune into a Dodgers broadcast, and I'll be like, wait, I know that voice.
And for the listeners, we're going to put Matt's phone number so you can call him about coaching. He's got plenty of time.
Yeah. All that
totally
time in the
kidding.
world.
That's not happening. Okay.
Yeah, he's going to neglect his kids from now on. In fact, he's not going to take his daughter to Taekwondo now. He's just going to coach.
Just deadbeat dad from here on out.
Perfect.
No. Yes. No,
Thanks,
that is not happening. Yes, we don't want to get
so
Matt in
guys,
trouble.
For having me. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate it, and love what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks.
Out of here.
Thanks, everybody. It's glad to be back. Yay. Bye.